Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido sent a group of envoys to meet with the Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini and the Vatican Secretary of State as he seeks their explicit backing as interim president alongside almost all other European countries. Italy remains the only major European Union nation not to recognize Guaido as Venezuela's temporary head of state.
Libertad, libertad y más.
High-level trade negotiations between the US and China are underway in Beijing. Talks between the two nations have started with the preliminary discussions, which run till Wednesday. This will be followed by another set of high-level discussions at the end of the week. Negotiations on the American side are being led by a deputy US Trade Representative, Jeffrey Gerish. The two sides are trying to hammer out a deal ahead of the March 1 deadline when US tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports are scheduled to increase to 25% from 10%. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo warned the US allies against deploying technological gear from Chinese tech firm Huawei. Pompeo was speaking to reporters during a visit to the Hungarian capital Budapest. He said that deploying equipment from Chinese telecoms gear manufacturer Huawei on their soil would make it more difficult for Washington to partner alongside them. The United States and its Western allies believe that Huawei's gear could be used for espionage and see its expansion into Central Europe as a way to gain a foothold in the European Union market. Meanwhile, Mike Pompeo has denied that Washington was covering up the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The remarks come after US President Donald Trump missed a Congress deadline to determine who ordered Khashoggi's assassination amid new revelations that Saudi Arabia's crown prince spoke of going after the writer with a bullet. A Salvadoran family was rescued from the Rio Grande border river between Mexico and the United States. The family of 7 that included 2 babies and 2 minors unsuccessfully tried to swim across the Rio Grande to Mexico's border with the U.S. in Eagle Pass, Texas. The family was, however, rescued and attended by the medics south of the border before being returned back. The U.S. Acting Defense Secretary has said that it is important for Afghanistan's government to be involved in talks with the Taliban, from which it has so far been excluded. Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan, who is in Afghanistan, met with President Ashraf Ghani on his first trip in his new role. Shanahan is also said to meet with U.S. troops and has said that he has so far not received any direction to reduce the nearly 14,000 U.S. troops in Afghanistan. A UN counter-terrorism expert has said that all of international terrorist organization ISIL remains the most likely to carry out a large-scale complex attack. Addressing the Security Council in New York, the executive director of the Counter-Terrorism Committee says that despite ISIL's dwindling territorial control, many challenges still remain in tackling the group. She also added that although ISIL has been forced to adapt into a covert and more locally focused network in Iraq, Syria and elsewhere, it remains determined to undermine stabilization efforts and to fuel sectarian tensions. US-led coalition airstrikes on the last jihadist pocket in Syria have killed 16 civilians, including at least 7 children. 8 women and 1 elderly man were also among the civilians killed while trying to flee towards the Iraqi border. The coalition was not immediately available for the comment, but has repeatedly said that it does its utmost to avoid targeting civilians. Lebanon's foreign minister has urged Syria to offer guarantees on property rights and military service to encourage Syrian refugees to return home. Lebanon has been host to more than 1 million Syrian refugees since the start of the civil war in 2011, and although some have returned, thousands continue to live in camps in Lebanon. Iranian foreign minister met with the top Lebanese officials, including Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri and Hezbollah leader Syed Hassan Nasrallah on the second day of a visit to Beirut. Zarif said that Iran is completely ready to cooperate with the Lebanese government and army in any field Lebanon sees useful and vital to cooperate with Iran. Leader of the exiled opposition group, National Council of Resistance of Iran, Maryam Rajavi, has said that they support US sanctions against Iran and says their movement is ready to bring about the collapse of clerical rule through their resistance units inside the country. Rajavi added that the Iranian people were once again being suppressed with scarce economic opportunities and that protests since 2017 showed the growing opposition towards the government. Wife of accused drug lord Joaquin, husband otherwise known as El Chapo, arrived at the Brooklyn federal court as the jurors deliberated on its fate for a fifth day. The 61-year-old drug lord has been accused of trafficking tons of cocaine, heroin, marijuana into the United States. He has twice escaped from prison in Mexico, and if convicted, El Chapo will face a U.S. prison sentence of up to life. European Union's Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier has said that Prime Minister Theresa May should endorse a permanent customs union with the bloc. This has been proposed by the opposition Labour Party in England, and Barnier says it is the best way to break the impasse over their looming divorce. He added that the time was extremely short to conclude a deal before Britain is due to leave the bloc on the 29th of March. Eurogroup President Mario Centeno has said that the Eurozone currency is slowing down mainly as a result of political risks and that politicians should address this immediately. Speaking before a meeting, Eurozone Finance Minister Centeno added that although there is a threat of recession, the economies of all Eurozone countries would grow in 2019. In Turkey, authorities prevented pro-Kurdish opposition groups from marching in Istanbul in solidarity with those on hunger strikes across Turkey. Hunger strikers in Turkey are protesting against the prison conditions of militant Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan. Protesters want to show support for these hunger strikers, and they were disbanded by police using riot shields. 40 elected officials and activists of the People's Democratic Party, a pro-Kurdish group, were prevented from gathering in Istanbul. An international rights group is urging the United Nations to investigate alleged violations by Sudan's security forces against anti-government protesters. Leila Matar, Deputy Director for United Nations at Human Rights Watch, called on the UN Human Rights Council to document the violations in Sudan and ensure a proper investigation. Sudan has been gripped by nationwide anti-government protests since 19 December. Nigeria is gearing up for presidential elections, and the two front-runner candidates remain Muhammadu Buhari and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. 76-year-old Buhari, who made history in 2015 as the first person to democratically oust incumbent president in Nigeria, is now a candidate for the All Progressive Congress. He is seeking a second term, and it is his fifth run at the presidency. Portraits of the late French activist, politician and Holocaust survivor Simone Weil have been defaced with swastikas. The portraits were painted by the street artist known as C215 as a tribute to Weil on two post boxes that are located on the facade of the town hall in Paris. Two people were killed in Brazil's Sao Paulo as a helicopter crashed into a truck on a highway. A prominent Brazilian journalist was among those who died in the crash. According to local media reports, the helicopter lost control and crashed into a truck on a highway before catching fire. Two people were killed and another injured in the incident. The Portuguese Maritime Police rescued 34 migrants off the coast of Lesbos in Greece. The migrants included 20 children, 6 men and 8 women, one of whom was pregnant. The migrant boat was towed by the Maritime Police to another Greek port where the migrants landed safely and were handed over to the Greek authorities. "45 nations participated in naval drills in the Arabian Sea off the coast of the Pakistani city of Karachi. The drills are part of Aman 19, a series of biennial naval exercises conducted by the Pakistani Navy since 2007.
लेडीज भी इनके साथ यार।
In India, at least 99 people have died and scores have been hospitalized after drinking toxic alcohol. The incidents were centered around the northern states of Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand and have triggered a crackdown against bootleggers. Mass deaths from drinking toxic low-quality liquor are common in India. Police say that 13 officials were found to be guilty and have been suspended. Heavy snow in Bosnia has disrupted road and air traffic in much of the country and forced an international winter sports competition to postpone some of its events. A blizzard on Monday piled fresh snow on the roads in the mountainous regions where traffic was either fully halted or slowed down to a crawl. Authorities banned heavy vehicles from some icy roads. The airport in Sarajevo has cancelled or delayed several flights owing to the icy runways and near zero visibility. In Finland, Game of Thrones enthusiasts now have a chance to experience the Arctic cold surrounded by the army of the dead, dragons and direwolves from the fictional kingdom of Westeros. So, some 200 kilometers above the Arctic Circle, the Snow Village Lapland Hotel, in collaboration with HBO Nordic, has for a second year built an ice hotel from scratch based on HBO's international hit series Game of Thrones. The artists from 12 artists from Latvia, Lithuania, Russia, Poland, Finland and the Ukraine used 400,000 kilos of ice to make the structure.